Hello, I'm Zhenzhang from Technical University of Munich. Today, I will present our work, Sublabel-Accurate Multilabeling meets product label spaces. This work is collaborated with Bjoern, Yvain, Thomas, and Professor Cremers. In this presentation, I will first introduce variational problem. It is under continuous setting and usually non-convex. In theory, we can apply lifting to tackle the non-convexity. But for practical usage, we will show the discretization and our implementation. We compare our method to the baseline, and the result will be shown in the experiments session. So first, let's look at the variational problem. In our work, we focus on the total variation regularized one. The omega here is a rectangular domain because we only consider the image application. The gamma here is a product space on compact embedded manifolders. The cost function C can be non-convex. And the lambda here is a weighting parameter in front of the total variation of U. Based on this model, we can have a lot of applications. And in our work, we consider optical flow and denoising on manifolders. Note that the cost function depends on the application. And also, the gamma needs to be defined based on the application. So the cost function can be non-convex. One method to tackle the non-convexity is called lifting. We start the idea of lifting from a simple example. If we want to minimize this non-convex cost C, traditional optimization might converge to a local optimum if the initialization is not good. The lifting idea here tries to lift a variable x, which means we try to find a probability distribution Q on the space X, which minimizes integration here. The advantage here is that now we have a convex problem. In theory, the optimization strategy should converge to a distribution which is centered at the global optimum. But the side effect is that now we have an infinite dimensional problem. For practical usage, traditional lifting discretizes the probability space into several labels. But to achieve an accurate result, we need a lot of labels, which requires huge memory space. Two ideas are already proposed before. One idea exploits the product space structure and optimize over the marginal distribution. And the sublabel-accurate idea leverages the duality to get a more label-efficient convex formulation. It replaces the cost with a dual variable at the end and add a constraint on it. Our idea here is try to combine them to further improve the scalability of lifting. So here is the lifting formulation on variational problem. I don't go to the technical details here and just want to remark that first, we need to discretize the omega and gamma, which is continuous. And based on the discretization, we need to adapt U, Q, P, and also this divergence operator. So here I show how we use finite element to discretize these two spaces. So omega here, we discretize it into a set of faces with edges. Note that these dashed lines are edges as well, even though we didn't write them out here. And for this gamma space, we follow the idea from product space. We discretize them into several labels here. And based on this discretization, we assume the cost function C now is constant per phase, but still continuous on the gamma. And U, Q here, they are constant per phase, but continuous piecewise linear in gamma. One example here is if we have 5 labels, we might have a U look like this. And for any point, like this red point here, we can do a linear interpolation to get the value on it. And then the variable P. Assume we have just one phase. The P lives on the edges. And then the divergence of any point inside this phase can be approximated by the linear interpolation between horizontal edges and the vertical edges. So now we have a discretized formulation. Note that equation 4 and 5 are already finite dimensional. But equation 6, we still have infinite dimensional because of gamma. How to tackle this problem? Our idea is we sample a subset of S from the gamma. And then this subproblem becomes finite, and we can solve it by a primal dual algorithm. With new solution, we can generate a new subset S, and we repeat these 2 steps until the algorithm converges. So here I illustrate our sampling strategy based on an example. The blue line is the cost. Assume after a certain number of iterations, we already achieve a Q, which is a green line here, looks like this. And these 2 red dots are our samples for this iteration. You can see the Q here is optimal for this subproblem. Next, we first random uniform sampling over all the cost function to get the global information. And also, we have some samples around the solution from previous iteration to get local information. And also, as you can see, a lot of samples here are unnecessary because at those points, the constraint already satisfied. So here, we only pick the most violated sample from them. And also, to guarantee the stability, we add one more sample, which is at the solution UIT from previous iteration. And in the third figure here, you can see we can already achieve a Q, which is nearly global optimum only by these 2 samples. To evaluate our method, we perform an ablation study on truncated quadratic energy. The baseline here is product space lifting. As you can see from these 2 columns, when we include the global sampling and the local sampling, we can achieve lower energy, but the memory space is increasing. So we add this pruning strategy based on these two. Even though the memory space now is lower, but the energy becomes unstable. So we add one more strategy, sample at U, which is current solution. Now we achieve a balance between the energy and the memory space. And also comparing to the baseline regarding number of iteration and times, we can see we require less number of iterations and also less running time to achieve a lower energy for different labels. Even though we have some jump at the beginning of the inner iteration, which is caused by the new samples, but it decreases quickly, and finally the energy decreases for each outer iteration. Next experiment here is optical flow. As you can see here, for both methods, more number of labels, we can get much lower energy. But the thing is that the memory usage also increased a lot in this case. And if you compare our method to the baseline, to achieve similar energy, we require much less number of labels. And it means we only need very small memory space to achieve similar energy result. Last is a HSV color space denoising. The difference comparing to the normal denoising is that we have a hue component, which is a 1D manifolder. Besides the lower energy from our method, if we look at the hue component from one row in this image, first, we allow the jump from the top to the bottom. That is because the manifolder here. And also our result doesn't have the bias of labels because we use Sublabel-Accurate. So to draw a conclusion here, we have a Sublabel-Accurate implementation of the product space in a memory-efficient manner. And also we propose a sampling strategy allows to solve non-convex cost function in a black box fashion, which means we don't require any gradient information about cost. We only need to evaluate the value of cost at certain points. So that's all for this presentation. Thank you.